Right? Everyone wants a piece of the action, and make it, as it were, affordable, but still give as much as you can. But in every event, you need someone to organize it. Someone on top. Sorry, Va'ato Lisa Kulana, my dear wife Lisa, arranged everything and everything was the whole perfect team. Until the smallest detail, that's all we're doing. Shali b'shalachem shalahim. So as you know, I was reciting the sentence in the classes from Seder to Haris. So the Gemara says in Shabbos Taflamin Hey on the pasuk Vaya and Munas Itecha Chosen Yeshua's Chacham V'das Yiras Hashem Yotzchak. The Gemara darshans that on the Shisha Sidrei Mishnah and Munas is Seder Zorah. Itecha Seder Moed. Chosen is Seder Nashim. Yeshua is Seder Zikr. Chachma is Seder Kachim. Das is Seder Taharos. So Chachma, so Kachim and Taharos is beside Chachma the Das, and that's what I want to talk about. But this brings immediately to the 3 weeks that we're in right now. With the Korban Beis HaMikdash, we lost the Kachim. We don't have the Korbanos anymore, right? But we also talk about that because of those, there's a Ruach HaTumah. Right? And we no longer makbetin our chulin b'tara, right? Because unfortunately, since we don't have kachim, we don't have to be noy b'tara either, right? The Kohanim and the Torah are very mindful of this, if they're studying what their Hebrew will be, Mary, B'nai HaMikdash, right? That because of the absence of kachim is also the absence of all the chiyuvei tahara, right? So there's the and kedusha, kachim is called chachma, wisdom, but tahara is called das. Knowledge. So now, an amazing thing, right? That the 2 edges of the Ben HaMitzorim, right, start with Yahzeit B'Tammuz and end with Tisha B'Av, and there's a fundamental difference between them. On Yahzeit B'Tammuz, we lost the kachim, right? The avoda ceased on Yahzeit B'Tammuz, right? But the house. Right, the bias was still there, right, for another 3 weeks, right, and that's the big Arizal of Tisha B'Av, and that's when we start commemorating, marking in a negative way. That's the Arizal on the bias. It comes out as 2 different things. There's the Arizal of Korbanos, and then there's the Metzias of the bias. Right? Avraham Avinu, by the Akedah, already consecrated Har Moriah as a makom of avodah. Bahar Hashem Yeroy. Just like he was willing to sacrifice Yotzchak at that place, it immediately became consecrated at that time, says the Rambam in the Gemara Nebuchim, right? That to become a makom of avodah for all times, and that's why the Rambam explains that it always says a makom Hashem Yivchar Hashem, the place that Hashem will choose. Says the Rambam was already chosen from the time of Avraham Avinu, but he didn't want there to be kinna between the Shvatim, so he kept it a secret until David HaMelech was Megala. So Avoda already starts with Avraham Avinu, right? But the Beis HaMikdash is not called the Beis Avraham. It's not called the Beis Yitzchak. It's called Vasalovo Na'ale El Beis Elokei Yaakov. And Chazal say in a few places, Lo Ka'avram Shekaro Har Shneimar Bahar Hashem Yeroy. V'lo Yitzchak Shekaro Sodeh Shneimar Vayetze Yitzchak Lasuach Basodeh El Yaakov Shekaro Bayis Shneimar Ein Zekim Beis Elokim V'zeh Shar Shemayim. The unique thing that the Beis HaMikdash called out the one that will stand forever is called out Shemayim because he called it a house. Abraham called it a mountain. Yitzchak called it a sodeh, right? He called it a field, right? But the bias will be named like that because he called it a house. And you know when he called it a house? When he laid there after the great vision, where it wasn't even literally one stone on top of another. It was an empty lot. He called it a house. And he said, "King based on the king." So an amazing thing because Avraham called it a mountain, right? Because it's something to climb up to and aspire to, which is already a type of divine service. Yitzchak called it a field. A field is a place also where you do avoda. But Yaakov Avinu called it a bias. A bias is not where you do service. A bias is a state of being. You live there. Right? That it's not the pshat, right, that we have a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu in a manner that He's above, but we serve, and He gives us something in return. right? But he's there, we're here, and we do a trade, we do a barter, right? That's not the ultimate goal, right? The ultimate goal is v'shachanti v'socham, to have a total merger. It should be a house. So a davar nifla, that the difference between kedusha and tahara, that we frequently throw these things around as synonyms. Right? Well, kedusha, tahara, as if we're repeating ourselves. But it's not a repetition. They're not synonyms. Right? They mean two different distinct things. The word kadosh means beyond, right? Above, right? It's something that's beyond you. And so we turn above and we try to make contact with that which is over our heads, right? The Kiddush Tzar means to separate the mountains. Something above is bigger than you, right? But we have to be aware that there's stuff bigger than us, right? And that's the whole mitzvah of kachim. Kachim, right? Avoda is sacrifice. When you need sacrifice. Sacrifice is that you're mavata what you have, you sacrifice, right, for a higher cause. Right? It's something that's bigger than you. It's something that's above you. Right? So now in the intellectual processes, being aware that there's something bigger than you, that's called chachma. Chachma is masha'olam shomei mirab. You hear from your Rabbi that there is such a thing. But it's not yet, absorbed, it's not yet internalized, it's not yet with havana, right, with understanding, and it's not yet with das, with the total das also means connection, right? So, kachim is called chachma. Kachim is called chachma because this is all the study of what's beyond us, when sacrifice is necessary, right? Now, we have two different relationships with that which is beyond us. Right? One is called chachma, that's the awareness of something above us. I'm aware of it, but I don't understand it. Right? But there's something called emunah, right? And that's also a relationship but that's a different type of relationship. It's a commitment to that which is bigger than us. Right? And these two midas of emunah and chachma, sort of chachma and malchus, right? They're related. Right? That's the sort of Hashem b'chachma yasad eretz, right? So Zohar says, Avo yasad barta. The midah of chachma gave birth, right, as it were. Directly found in the midah of malchus, which is emunah. Right? These are two relationships to that which is beyond us. The difference is that chachma is not integrated, right, and it's totally over our head. Right? We're just in awareness of something. Emunah it's still over our head, but we're committed to it nonetheless. And one is the sort of chachma, the other is the sort of malchus, and these are the two relations to that which is over our head. And that's the avodah of kachim. So now there's an amazing thing. What am I getting to? Right? Because we don't have korbanos bismanazeh. What do we have instead of that? What do we have instead of korbanos? We have tefillah, right? Where is the hilchos tefillah? It's in Seder Zroy. It's in Seder Zroy, which is via emunah sitera, right? Emunah. Seder Zroy is called emunah. So the tefillah, which is from up from the korbanos, right, is the tefillah's emunah. Because and indeed, in the time that we're omed b'tefillah in front of our Baruch Hu, we have to be bigger than ourselves. And that's the whole idea of walking 3 steps forward before Shemona. We're entering a higher dimension, a higher plane that's bigger than us. And then when Shemona illustrates over, you take 3 steps backwards, returning to your normative state of existence, and that's what's written in Kisvei Ari, in the Bar Yula, that tefillah is his spashtus abakius. At the time that you're Shemona Esrei, you're not in this world. You take 3 steps, and the Rishonim already say you have to view yourself as if you're in Shemayim, or you have to view yourself as if you're in the Beis HaMikdash, right? The Rishonim, the Talmidei Rabbi Yono, right in Brachos. Right? You're not in this world. When you're in Shemona Esrei, you take 3 steps to re-enter Earth. Right? And the whole experience has been bigger than yourself, and that's why tefillah could be b'makom korban, where sacrifice. You do something that's bigger than yourself, above and beyond. Right? But then there's das. Das is integration, just like the word das means, right? Connection. Right? So the state of das, right, is a state of being. You're the state of tahara, right? You're tahor. Torah is not bigger than yourself. Torah is a state of being. I am Torah. Right? It is a state of being. But what type of state of being is it? Is being connected. The first time I met Murray Varabi, Rosh Shabir, Zecher Tzaddik Kodesh Bracha, in that transformative experience that changed my whole life. Right? So one of the many things he told me in those 3 hours that I had with him, my first encounter, he asked me, I tell you that I said Tuma, I tell you that I said Tara. I said to him, Ara. Tuma you better answer. Tara you better answer. Right? There's a mashor Tuma. Right? What's the root of the word Tuma? So the shorish tam, tekmen, means says satum, atum, hatmon, another tum, mitum tam, right? Block, right? Seal, right? Hatameh, mufrash, right? Satum. The tummy is cut off, and that's why one of the direct ramifications of being tummy is you have to be alone, or there's tumah in the bias, you've got to separate, right? Right? Tahara, as Targum Omer, Solar, Tasela, Teva, make a window for the ark. Solar, as one of the Targum say, Solar, Ti Harba. Tahara is the yoke katu. It's the yoke with the bottom. Tahara is to be open, right? To be connected, right? And that's why Tahara is connected dots, right? Tahara is integrated. Tahara is a state of being. Chokhmah, right? It's touching is something that's beyond self, right? And and that's very good in the bechina of har and soda, avoda, something outside of self, something beyond self. Har for sure beyond self. Soda, something beyond self, right? Outside of self. Bias is basal zu ishto, it's to be connected. Right? The culture, right, that we had in the base of interest, that was one madrega, right? But it's not so pasuk. The end of it is to be one with the Shir, shakanti b'socha, right? To be united with the person, to have a convergence, right, between the Elyon and Tachtonim, that we live together. It's a bias, and that's not so. Right? And if you know about material, so you know, Hilchos Kohen, you know about Bas, real estate law, and inheritance law, right? So what is the topic? If you know this Chokhmah, what do you know? What do you know? What is the tree of this lima? As the Ramchal explains, what's quite self-evident. It's called Chokhmah Emes. What? The Torah is not Emes. Right? But this Chokhmah shows you, in the words of Ramchal, how the Torah is emes. It gives you a model of reality that you could be real, that Hashem will locate, that everything is b'hashgacha pratis, right? That everything comes from one source, right? That everything comes from one Ribono Shalom and Eino Novad, right? And everything is moving towards tikkun, everything's moving in a positive direction, and it's not just something to have up here, the b'chinas Chokhmah. It's supposed to be b'das. The sword be a dactyl, v'hashivoso v'becha, ki Hashem Elokim. This is what this Chokhmah is. This Chokhmah is meant to be internalized and become a part of us to make us real with the Torah. When a person does something b'shogeg, right? So the Torah refers to that mibli das, right? Marsmasek, by her measure, mibli das, right? It's not mibli Chokhmah, mibli bina. Because Chokhmah means our intellectual processes that aren't necessarily integrated with the person. But Mibli Das is the koach, right, that permeates your being. Kavanah Samaisa is called Das. So someone here should ask, if Kavanah Samaisa is Das, then that means it's a synonym with Ratzon. Ratzon as opposed to onus. And that's 100% correct. And that's the soy, what the Mekubalim say, Kishemonim Keser, Emonim Das, Kishemonim Das, Emonim Keser. Right, that these two midas, we don't count them twice because they're functioning the same thing. The midah that's Keser, it's called Ratzon, and the midah that's called Das, that permeates our being, are really two expressions of the same thing. Right? It has to become a part of us. And we have to understand that the Bar Yimula, right, and how we finally unlocked the parts of the Zohar, right, that remained locked to us, right, which are Sacred Tzniusa, the Idra and Parshas Naso, the Idra and Parshas Ha'azinu, right, that all those parts of the Zohar talk about the Sod HaTikun. Where does Tikkun lie? Where do you get Tikkun from? If something's broken, how do you fix? Right? Well, you got to supplement from somewhere else. You got to incorporate. If something's missing, fill the gap. You got to bring something down. Right? You got to cause a connection to something else that can supplement what's missing. In Tohu, right, in the world that we live in today, right, so every car, and it's all about me first, right? Everything is like me, ani va'afsio, vayilach vayamos, right? Everyone wants to be on top, wants to be king, and then that doesn't lead anywhere to the world being a better place, right? In Tikkun, things get together and supplement for each other. In the Kabbalah that there was before the Ari came, where we say they didn't talk about Partsufim. So just to give an explanation, Al Derech HaPshat, I'll read the Ramchal. Ramchal has a sefer called the Mamar Vikuah. And it's a dialogue between a Choker and a Makubal, a philosopher and a Makubal. And he asks, what's this between the Kabbalah of the Ramak and all those that came before the Ari and the Kabbalah of the Ari? And over there, the Ramchal writes like this, right? They only spoke, before the Ari, generalities. The Ari spoke particulars. Now, that sounds like a very, superficial difference that the Ari got into details, and they didn't speak about the details. But you have to cross-reference, and you have to see what Ramchal writes elsewhere, and Ramchal explains something amazing. Right? To understand, let me give a quick introduction. Right? The world is an amazing place. It's built up of conflicting forces. We have fire and water. We have all types of conflicting energies in the same universe. And it's an amazing thing, right? That on the one hand, right, these conflicting forces don't cancel each other out, right? And on the other hand, they don't keep far enough apart that, God forbid, the world would fling around in, different directions. There's an interesting balance, how things stick together, right? And yet, and yet don't cancel each other out. And Chazal Maramis this in two Mishnayos in Pirkei Knesia l'shem shamayim sof l'sayim. There's an ingathering, but it's l'shem shamayim, it'll hold together. And then machlokes l'shem shamayim sof l'sayim. When there's a divergence, but it's l'shem shamayim, that divergence will also be sustained. The amazing thing, these two different Mishnayos are saying two different contradictory messages. Does Shem Shamayim hold things together, or does Shem Shamayim keep things apart? It's an amazing thing. And that's, but this is the point that we're getting to. Right? This Chokmah that's called Chokmah Shem, Ki Yodah Shmi, right? To be connected to the divine name. Right? The God's divine name is what they call, in sense of the dark matter, that somehow gives the balance to the universe. That things don't converge and yet don't fly apart. The dark matter, we call it Shem Shamayim, the name of heaven. Where's the name of heaven? Chol makom asher azkir es shemi avoy lecho berachticha. Hamakom asher yichar Hashem l'shakein shmo shom. The Beis HaMikdash, which are mourning during the 9 days, that place is called Shem Shamayim. And Chazal tell us elsewhere it's the center of the globe. And not just the center of this globe. It's the center of all the different olamas that Beis HaMikdash Shalmala, B'chuvei Kenei, Beis HaMikdash Shalmata. There's a cosmic alignment. There's a Beis HaMikdash in the same place, all over. It's cosmic point center. The Shem Shamayim is the point center that holds things together and yet keeps them apart so they can't cancel each other out. Keeps the cosmic balance. But there is a subtle, through the Shem Shamayim, there is a subtle connection on the detail level. Because on the Klali level, if they would get together, they would cancel each other out. But on the detail level, they could get together to supplement each other. And that was the big tikkun when we had a Beis HaMikdash. The Beis HaMikdash, which is a point center. Hamachom Hashem Hashem l'shakein shmo sham. And where do we learn the laws of Shabbos from? That you can't do this on Shabbos because you got arrested for creating the whole heaven and earth. Where do you learn what's implicit in creating the whole heaven and earth? From Lechus HaMishkan. The Binyan Beis HaMikdash was beside a mini model of all of reality coming together in the proper order, right? Held together in a way that the parts don't cancel each other out, but they are close enough that they can exchange information on the detailed level to start supplementing each other and move towards total tikkun. where all the good coalesces and all the evil is pushed out from the universe. That's the amazing teaching that we have in the Beis HaMikdash. And connected that is the Chachma of the Bar Gilula, who by no coincidence died during this week, right, as a countermeasure to Korban Abayis. Right, that Av is the 5th month. He died on the 5th day of Av, which is B'Soy, Hoy Shebahoy. Mamish Connected how Rashbi died on Hoy Shebahoy, the Lag Bomer. And which I can't get into details of that right now. But the Chachma of the Torah of the Ari is to teach us, not just that if you understand reality the way he understood it, you understand that the Torah is ends, and the halacha is ends. And there's no higher morality than the Torah, right? And gender is not a social construct, it's real, and it's real in all the firmaments, right? Right, that you know, if you have this chachma, that you could have, be real, that everything about Torah is emes. But here's the thing, everything's real about Torah, even down to the details. But also you understand how with the Seder of Torah, the world is in a mahalach of supplementation, which happens on a very detailed level, because you can't have the klolim clash into each other, but on a very detailed level. Tell you that the Rambam alludes to in Hilchos Yesodei HaTorah, that the Arba Yesodas, they're separate from each other, but on a detailed level, on the border, they switch. They exchange information. And that's what it means. You'll find in Storm that the Arizal spoke about the Seder Partsufim. The Partsuf is the idea of the integrated system, that all the kohos start interfacing and start taking account of each other. Right? Mamish, the hefech of sinas chinam. Right? They look at each other and look to supplement each other. But with this understanding, it's not just in an abstract sense, it's das. When a person comes to understanding and he brings it into the world, he causes the world to conduct itself accordingly. So the Torah of the Ari is not an intellectual exercise of making sense out of life. With his revealing this idea, he actually accelerates the process by bringing this chachma into reality. And an amazing thing to see, that all the schools of thought that came to explain the Ari afterwards, they're not just explaining the Ari, they're continuing the process. Right? The base medrash of the Ramchal, right, and the Talmud Agon are now being mamshik the Torah of the Ari in the sichlius, in the intellectual, by explaining it. So they're bringing it down into this world from the intellectual plane. Chassidus is about bringing it into the physical plane, al derech ha'avoda. Right? The Rashash was it to bring it into the physical plane, al derech the kavanas and tefillah, that they're not just explaining, but they're actually continuing the process of bringing this koach into reality. And that's what it means that the Zohar says, that that the Zohar will be fully revealed and fully explained in the later generations. Right? And that's what's going to get us out of Golos, because Golos is everything is fragmented, scattered, piecemeal. Right? The Chachma of Yahweh is to explain how the universe is a united place and everything is happening for one goal. Right? Kol ma'asecha yiyu l'shem shamayim, which is the soul that put us on Mikdash. Right? This is what this Chachma teaches us, but not just teaches us. The more we understand it, the more we live by it, the more we bring it out in reality and we cause reality to conform to it. I just want to add 2 more points. Right, there was a wonderful sefer, that came out 200 years ago, called the Talmud. It's by Rabbi Yaakov Shmuley. He was the Rabbi in Bucharest before the Malad. It was a Talmud of the Chayzer. It was the first attempt to create a holistic system of explaining the Ari based on all different. And the diamonds leaked out, and they fell, on the fields, and they fell on the road, and they fell also in mud, and they fell in, all types of muddy places. So what happens? Right? So people go to help the king and pick up his diamonds that fell. And so, of course, the more hush people, they don't want to get dirty. I'd say go into the fields. And the less hush people, just beneath them, they go out on the roads. Who goes into the swamps? Right? To get, the diamonds that fell there. Who goes there? Right? The plus dimension, I don't mind getting dirty. And where are the biggest diamonds? Probably the ones that sunk in the swamps. Right? Those are probably the biggest ones. Right? So he gives that mushal to explain of what the Zohar already divined, that the synagogue is going to be installed during Basorim to later generations. That sometimes the dirtiest work that has to be done, to pick up the king's diamonds, has to be done by the simplest people. They have to go down there, but they're doing the heavy, they're doing literally the dirty work, right? That the more abler generations can't get their hands dirty with. Right? And so that's it, that sometimes Sisrei Torah will be more revealed in later generations because they have to go for those big diamonds that have sunk deep down in the swamp. Right? And they need that fortitude, and they need that fortitude because they're also going to go down there and pull up those Divrei Torah. We have to understand that even if our door is called Ikvus of the Mashiach, right, the heels of Mashiach, but because we're so lowly, right, we're not the Rosh, we're not the Adayim, but the heel carries on itself the weight of the whole body, right? Because all of Torah, of all the generations that came before us, where did their Torah go after they died? Where did it go? So they were Machadish Torah. Where did their Torah go? So I heard again from my Rabbi, Rosh Shapir, told us in Shir. HaTorah Nikret, Torah Silan Moshe, Morasha, Kilat Yaakov. It's an inheritance. Ech Mekabdim Yerusha. Ech Mekabdim Yerusha. Mishum Tzorech Lamut. Right? How do you get Yerusha? Someone's got to die. B'chaya, who's only giving you a chai shalom every week for your allowance, You'll be so sick to get everything. Right? Right. The Torah is called Morasha Kilas Yaakov, right? Moshe Rabbeinu who melamed the Torah b'chaya u'b'mitato. They call Morasha. And as they explained to us, that even though the Gemara says in Kiddushin, in Torah Dileinu, right, the Torah, the Tam Chacham, it says, so Tam Chacham, V'armachol zeh b'chaya. Alo b'moto, kol ha'torah zeh Morasha Kilat Yaakov. It's an inheritance until to the Am Yisrael. Right? All the Torah of all the previous generations, it doesn't die, doesn't get lost with the person who was Machadish. It becomes our inheritance, it becomes our Yerusha. Right? By the way, that's the halacha in Kosher Mishpat. Right? Divrei Torah do not have bites. So the Amical, the Kosher Kosher will come and say he wants royalties of all the Kosers that were printed in the last 150 some odd years. He gets nothing. Torah doesn't belong. It's Morasha Kilas Yaakov. There is no Torah, the Divrei Torah belongs to Am Yisrael, and that's how you reconcile. The famous Gemara of In Torah Dileu, with the famous, Vayikra Rabba, Yerusoi Gabach, Kilas Yamei Lo Ne'emar, El Morasha Kilas Yaakov, right? The Talmud Chacham does Machadish Divrei Torah, he gets credit as if it's his, and can be Mochal Torah In Torah Dileu. But the Etzem Torah belongs to Morasha Kilas Yaakov, right? We are carrying a very heavy inheritance upon us, right? All the Torah of the Arizal, all the Torah of the Ramchal, that was Mefarishim, right? All the Torah of the Chassidus, all of it, it all comes to Yerusha to us. So what if we were small people? But we have a tremendous Yerusha that's empowering us, right? And it's the biggest lie, right, that is being perpetrated out there in all different avenues. We're a small door, and whatever we do is okay, and better than nothing, right? The Chovas HaTalmidim that our Shiva, Yaakov Weinberg said, was the biggest exposition what the Baal Shem Tov is about. He used to say, right, there's two words that together they're the most greatest obscenity. It's the biggest obscenity that should ever cross a person's lips. A Pashtiyid. There's no such thing as a Pashtiyid. We have a Neshomas Chatzum Mitachas Kitzei HaKavod. And even if we're not as big as the generations before, but all that Divrei Torah comes down to us via Yerusha. Right? We have to be mindful of who we are, right? The greatness that we have, right? And the tremendous inheritance that we're carrying, right? That the Torah of Yari, all that it was Megala, it didn't get lost when he died. It became our Yerusha. And we're carrying that Yerusha on our backs. Right? And we can't stop the process now. In this door, where the apikorsis, which is the countermeasure of the chachmas ha'emes, what Kabbalah teaches us, which is meant to be besod das, internalized, part of our being, besod bias, right? Tahara, right? Be a part of us, not just something above, something that we live with, right? Something that we're connected to, right? We have to understand, right, that all this is with us right now, and we cannot stop the process. When we're up against all the apikorsis that's out there, that has never reached such obscene levels, right, and the most basic truths are being overturned, we have to be mechazik ourselves in the koach of the Bari Lula. And on this day, just like he is oiled to a higher level in Shamayim, so also as Yerusha comes down another level closer to us on this great day, right? We have to come and make the ishtalos to absorb, right? Not just be aware, that's called, but it has to be besoy das, right? Totally connected. We have to be totally real. We have to absorb his legacy within us and give us fortitude to withstand the big nisyanas that are here already. Not the sun, but are here already. Right? I just want to say one more thing, right? This has to be coupled with an unmitigated revival and renaissance in all our learning. We become lackadaisical, we become lazy, right? And people will say, what do you want from the door? And my Rebbe, Rosh Shapiro, that was the one thing drove him crazy. He didn't want to hear Nishvan our door, right? He never wanted to hear that, right? Am Yisrael says Chachamim and Avodim, Talmidei Chachamim, Tzadikim, right? Mamlechas Kohanim b'Goy Kodesh, right? Enough with this better than nothing. Another thing about the Bar Yilot, he was the biggest in his door in Pilkul, right? In Lomdus, he was the biggest in the door. Behind the top was made on the Arizal. That on every sugya in Shas, he had 7 mahalachim. 7 different mahalachim in every sugya in Shas, connected to 6 days of the week, right? And one, al Pisot, connected to Yom HaShabbos. And he used to learn Iyun in the morning, says Reb Chaim Vital, and be methodical and ask kashas and say terutzim and lumdus and chilukim until he would break out in sweat. Right? Because we need birurei halacha, right, below to get out all the schmutz, right? As what the Zohar says, that lumdus halacha is, nikla is connected to Eitz Das Tovara. There's a lot of schmutz in the world. Birurei halacha is like boirer. We get the psolos out, we ask the kashas, we prove things wrong, and we prove things right, we clear the air. And that's what Reb Chaim Vital writes, which is the minute in yeshivas, to learn even in the morning with Pilkul, and then you can learn B'kiyus in the afternoon, and you're safe, because you cleared the air. And you know that whatever you're learning is pure Torah. You don't have to worry that maybe misconception of getting in. We need, if we're serious about tapping into the Torah of the Bari Lula, to bring the Gula, right, to bring the supplementation, right, to bring the complementary koach of Olam HaTikun, right, that causes the convergence between Elyon and Tachon, that there was in the Beis HaMikdash. V'shachanti b'socha, right, if we're going to be serious about it, it also has to be coupled with birur halacha, right, and learning be'ilun, right, ba'amkus, right, enough of this nishman on zador, whatever the kids do is okay, that's atzas hayetzer. That is atzas hayetzer. Everyone has to do as much as they can and not be afraid of the enormity of the task and the koach of the sitra achra, because as small as we are, we have the morasha, right? We have the tremendous Yerusha of all the doors that came us, and on this day, as the Bari Lula is being oila lamava, he's being nourished to us in Torah lamata, that we can go and come back to sitra achra, and we'll see the Gula Shem in Heri Yameinu. Hi!
Oh, yeah.